So let me check our streams.
See, I just did it again. Remember how I said that I constantly accidentally do screenshots on the iPhone XS Max?
I do it a lot too.
I do it a lot too.
Didn't they change it to be like less likely for that to happen?
I don't. I'm still doing it.
I'm getting so many. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
All right, I see us on YouTube. Let me refresh Twitter real quick. Hello, everyone, for joining us.
Hello.
Okay, I'm almost there. Where's it? Watch this live. Paste. Delete that.
And yeah, I think I am good on my side. We'll say I am.
Cool. All right.
We're good.
I'm good too. All right. You guys ready?
Sure thing. Let's do it.
All right. Welcome to the Macworld Podcast. I'm Roman Loyola. Joining us on the remote is Mike Simon. Hi, Mike.
Hello, everyone.
In studio with Leif Johnson.
Hiya.
And our producer, the most important man in the room, Dan Masuoka.
Hello, hello, hello.
Dan's the most important man in the room because he's checking our Twitter and YouTube feeds for your comments and questions. If you have any,
he's also a Dodgers fan, in case anybody wants.
He is a Dodgers fan, so which lessens his importance.
A little bit.
Why is that?
So.
Well, because they're going to lose the World Series to the Red Sox. But this isn't a sports show. We'll talk about that some other time.
So, and the Dodgers beat the A's in '89. So,
we're due.
So, yeah, he's checking your comments and questions on the World Series, on technology, on Apple topics. So if you guys have any thoughts or questions, comments, let us know. Dan will chime in. That's why he's the most important man in the room, because he represents you. Today we're going to talk about next week's Apple event, and we're also going to talk about some developments in Beautygate, another gate.
I'm not sure that's really a gate, but
no,
okay.
But it's a lot easier to say than the excessive retouching of the selfie cam.
It wasn't even really that. It was like
right.
They explain. Well, we'll
so
get
explain. Yeah.
No.
But first, we're going to talk about the iPhone XR, which went on sale Friday, and Mike stayed up.
I did foolishly.
To order one.
I foolishly stayed up because they had more than enough to go around.
Yes. And the early reviews have come out about them, and they seem to be almost more favorable than I expected.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, most people are saying don't bother with the iPhone XS unless you're like a hardcore Apple fan or really need that bigger screen, which, sure. I think this is Apple's plan all along. So what people aren't really, the average, the layman iPhone buyer doesn't realize that they increased the price of the low-end iPhone by $50, which in a normal year would be like, oh my God, but they have $1,100 iPhones now. So all of a sudden $750 seems cheap. Yeah. So I think that's the plan here. They're still raising the average selling price, and they're giving people, it's a good phone.
Yeah, we said in the past.
I haven't used one, but spec-wise, screen-wise, it's a good phone.
Yes,
we've said in the past that in their previous here's the budget version that we were doing these days. You're making a lot of sacrifices. This year is one of the ones I don't think you're really making a lot of sacrifices by going with the lower end phone.
Yeah, it was like the difference between the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 8 Plus. There's a little, it's a little bigger screen. You got the camera is 2 instead of 1. Otherwise, it's essentially the same phone. The processor, the storage, in some ways it's a little bit more, it's a little bit better than the iPhone XS because you get those 3 storage tiers that aren't, so spaced out. So you can pay $50 extra and get a good amount of storage without going an extra $100. If you do it, just by gigabyte value, it's actually a little bit better.
So real quick, It's Consumer Life on Twitter is asking if you think that the XR is going to be too big for one-hand use.
It's a good question because size-wise, it's between the XS and the Plus.
It's 6.1, but it's the bezels are. I mean, I guess they're kind of big, but there's no chin, there's no forehead, there's no home button, so the whole kind of form factor is condensed. I mean, it depends on how big your hands are, I would assume, but this is it. You know, there are no more small phones.
Yeah, and
We're
I
just
don't
gonna
have
have
an
to get
issue
used to
doing
it.
10s Max. Yeah, so it's yeah. I mean, I can handle it with one hand just fine. But I do have big hands.
Yeah. I mean, I have a 6.4-inch Pixel, and I can pretty much do it with one hand. Some things, you know, it depends on what I'm doing, I guess.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just this is it. This is the way it's going to be. The 5-inch phone is going to be dead. It's pretty much dead. There's a couple left, but it's, you know, say goodbye.
Yeah, if anyone in the audience bought a 10R and want to tell us why you bought one, let us know. Be interested to see what people's perspective are. It's weird to think. I think, you know, people have been calling the 10R the cheaper iPhone, but I try to think of it the other way, in that the 10R is really the base phone,
the normal price,
and
iPhone.
the 10s and the 10s Plus are the luxury phones, so to speak.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You're paying more for what might be considered in comparison to the 10R luxury type features, like the OLED, the bigger size. I can't even 3D touch. I mean,
okay. If anyone buys an iPhone XS for 3D touch, please email me,
right?
Because I will interview you for the whole story.
But that's my point. Some of these features aren't. They're not going to drastically change your experience with the iPhone. So.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a slightly better camera, and you're getting probably a significantly better screen,
right?
Resolution wise and color wise. Is the screen on the iPhone XR bad? I'm not expecting it to be. I mean, I'll get mine on Friday.
Yeah.
But Apple's LCDs are great. You know,
yeah.
I don't think anyone ever really complained about them in the past until OLED came along, and they were like, oh wow, this is so much better, and it is. Is it $250 better? For most people, I'm going to say no.
Yeah. And one of the big drawbacks of it that people have been saying is the portrait mode, where it's only people. Is that correct? Yeah.
Oh, right.
So,
but I mean, how many?
Exactly.
How often? First of all, how often do you use portrait mode? That's the first thing.
Yes.
And second of all, how often do you use portrait mode for not people? It's called portrait mode. Portraits are people.
Yeah, you know, I use it to take photos of butterflies one time, but that was like literally the only time I've ever done it.
As an Instagram husband, I use portrait mode a lot.
For what?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, Veronica, you know, just shooting. She wants a photo somewhere.
Yeah, that's people.
But I think
people are still cool.
I would consider you, Dan, a professional.
And not a professional.
A professional photographer.
It is also my profession,
right?
But it's also my home duties as well.
But is she just you're just doing it of people though? That's kind of what we were getting at.
I'll ask her if she uses it on food. You know, when we go out. You know, I think a lot of people do take photos of food.
Yes.
So, portrait mode though.
You don't need portrait for food. The one thing I will understand is that people who have dogs and cats,
right.
I've seen a lot of those pictures, and you know, it's kind of not the greatest anyway, because the fur gets blurry around the edges. Like the system never really got that
the
as
masking
well as
isn't
people.
Really
hair is
great.
tricky, yeah.
Yeah.
So Apple said, you know what? Instead of trying to do this, and people are going to complain about it, and it's just people.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fine trade-off.
Yeah. So the reviews have been overwhelmingly positive. Yeah. So just to summarize the trade-offs, so you get the camera. You don't
one
get
instead of two lenses.
Right.
It's the same main lens on the back.
Yeah.
But you don't get that second telephoto lens, which, you know, there are some instances where 2x optical zoom is nice.
Yeah.
It's not a make or break feature for me anyway.
And then it is also bigger because, you know, as someone who wishes phones were smaller, you know, if they made a 5-inch iPhone 10 whatever, I would have probably bought that.
Yeah.
You know, full screen.
Yeah, I'd love to know why Apple chose 6.1 inches. It's so interesting. Like, why not 5.5 inches and make it? Because you're buying a bigger phone for less money.
Right.
It's a weird decision by Apple, and I don't think we'll ever find out what made 6.1 the decision here.
Right. It definitely profiles as a decision that wasn't made randomly.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right.
But like, why not just use the 5.5-inch from the Pro?
Right.
That size, that form factor in the maybe it's the way the LCD has to be cut. Maybe it's the way the bezels and the corners are, because they're doing some really cool tech. I don't know if you guys have ever seen like LG phones, for example. Those corners are not perfect. Like, you'll see jaggedness. You'll see, because it's LCD. LCD's tough,
right?
And not to mention there's a larger chin than there are sides. There are tons of trade-offs Android manufacturers have to make to get LCDs to work at this level, and Apple somehow solved all of those issues. Yes, the bezel's thicker, and compared to the iPhone XS, it's pretty thick, but it's uniform all the way around. You're not getting that bigger chin at the bottom. Certainly, there's not that giant one that the iPhone had before with the home button, and to do that with an LCD is impressive.
Yeah.
But I think the real thing that people want about the 10R are the colors, isn't it? It's all about the colors, isn't it?
I agree with that. I wish they had a gradient like Huawei just came out with the Mate 20, sorry. And they have this really nice, it shades from purple to blue, and it changes in the light. Like, that's awesome. These are pretty standard colors, but it's still nice.
It is nice.
I bought a blue one in case anyone cares.
You kind of blew it.
I know a lot of people are talking about that coral one.
Yeah, and that's going to be a popular one. Yellow was sold out for whatever reason on T-Mobile, so maybe T-Mobile people like yellow.
Wow.
Yeah, so they have the product red.
Yeah, which is nice that they're not releasing it in February to piss everybody off.
Yeah. The other thing is, I was going to order one for Macworld, but they don't have an unlocked version available for pre-order.
Interesting.
So, yeah, they usually don't. They limit pre-orders to carriers generally, and then those come 4 to 5 weeks later.
So we decided to wait to see when the unlock one becomes available. So, but as Mike said, he bought one, and you're getting yours Friday?
Friday morning, yeah. I'm going to the Apple store to pick it up at 8 o'clock in the morning.
And Mike will be broadcasting an unboxing. So
hopefully, if I can get it to work.
Hopefully, that's
Framingham,
true.
Massachusetts. But
okay, I was saying, are you going to do it at home or Massachusetts?
So,
we're planning on doing that.
We're planning on doing one, so stay tuned to our Twitter feed. We'll let you guys know when we're going to do that, if we can do it. So we should be able to do it.
It shouldn't be a problem.
It won't. It won't be worse than our stay up late live stream from my house. We'll say that.
The one to go back to the colors for a second, that would have been a really easy way for Apple to trim costs and just make it metal or plastic and say you're not getting wireless charging on this model, and everyone would have said, okay, fine. Like, that's more of a luxury, higher end feature. But they made this glass, and you can still use wireless charging, and it's a really nice.
They're committed
feature-packed phone, yeah.
Yes, it is.
Right, they're committed to the wireless.
It doesn't feel like a cut-rate iPhone 10 at all.
Yeah.
And there was a while when I was getting kind of cynical about Apple's intentions, where I would not even assume they would have done that. So
yeah, right. I agree.
Good for them. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, this is kind of a bit of a strategy we saw with the iPad. It has pencil support. It's $329, and it's not really. It's a lesser version of the Pro, of course, and it'll be even more so when they come out next week. But it's they're really trying to say, okay, fine, we have our high end locked up. Now let's try to, not that $750 for a phone is low end, but for Apple it is.
So go ahead.
No, I got nothing else.
I was going to say, Coral Reef on Twitter is saying cheap is cheap and you get what you pay for. So why, what do you think is exactly this price discrepancy? Do you think it's, the actual cost and parts? Or do you think how much of it do you think is like market positioning?
I think the big differentiator is LCD versus OLED.
It's that much of a price difference.
If you're making $40 million a quarter, yes, because Apple, the manufacturing process is completely different. OLED's expensive. Getting them to work the way Apple needs them to with the iPhone 10 design, all that stuff is that costs significantly more than LCD.
Yes,
$200 more.
And I don't know. I don't necessarily. Apple's not the only company charging $1,000 for a phone.
Yeah.
Everyone does it now. Huawei, Samsung, LG charges $950 for their phone. Google, if
Apple
you buy
opened the door for
$128,
that, essentially.
Yeah, and everybody still just uses
Apple opened
for
the door,
punching
opened
bag.
the
They did. They
$1,000
absolutely
door.
did. But for Apple to take all the heat for expensive phones is, it's kind of BS.
Right.
Yes, it
because
is.
Across the line, we have, high-end luxury phones. So Google's Pixel starts at 900. I'm sorry, the Pixel 3 XL starts at 900, and if you get the 128 gig version, it's $1,000. If you buy the Note 9, 128 gigs, $1,000. This is the new normal.
Right. Yeah.
So $750.
I wouldn't call that cheap.
But even in Android, if you're talking about a premium product with on the Android side, Snapdragon processor, 4 to 6 gigs of RAM, 64 to 128 gigs of storage, a really good camera, great battery life, we're talking about $900. $750 for that type of phone is cheap, and that's just the way it's going to be. And if your name is Coral Reef, I recommend getting the coral color.
Yeah.
Hope it doesn't bleach.
So Mike will be doing our iPhone XR review.
And I'll be doing an Android comparison.
Comparison. So he'll be taking a closer look at that. I was thinking that with the iPhone XR shipping on Friday, that would mean iOS 12.1 would be released today-ish. It still could happen. But it doesn't, as 10 o'clock rolls around, that's when Apple tends to like to release stuff at 10 o'clock-ish on Tuesday, Wednesday-ish. Sometimes Thursday, but not usually Thursday. Never on a Friday, and sometimes on a Monday, but only if it's a big deal. I would think that the iOS 12.1 update would be released because 12.1 includes what we're calling the Beautygate fix, supposedly.
Yeah.
There was a report by, was it The Verge?
It was kind of like tucked away in their review.
Yeah. That Apple told The Verge that they're working on a fix for what people discovered as like overly retouched photos created by the iPhone. Was it just the iPhone XS? Was it also, or was it due to iOS 12?
I think it was both of them. Yeah.
I think it was both. It wasn't on earlier phone.
Okay.
Maybe it was.
So was
it on the iPhone 10? I don't remember, honestly.
Yeah.
The thing is, I'm really curious if this is going to solve where a lot of people think that the coloring is off. I mean, the smoothing is one thing, but I know some people, I
mean, that seemed to be how the problem arose, was that it was picking a wrong white balance and screwing with all of the settings. So maybe it could fix both. Honestly, I wish Apple would add a beauty slider to the selfie. Like, why not?
Just make it a separate feature.
Lots of other people do it,
So Apple's saying that it's essentially they need to tweak their Smart HDR.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but I mean, their photo mode is not known for manual control.
Right.
So it seems like it's probably unlikely.
Yeah, I had to turn live photos off, and I couldn't believe that the Hoops.
But that's more of like a fun setting. Like, I mean, you're probably right. They probably won't do it. But if you're gonna have a super duper selfie cam with that emoji and all this other stuff, why not?
Yeah.
And just real quick, because there are a lot of questions. When is iOS 12.1 going to come out?
It's in beta now, and Apple doesn't release that they don't announce ship dates for their dot releases.
That's what we meant.
So,
it could be tomorrow.
Right.
Is it what is it, up to the 4th or the 5th dev beta or public beta at this
point?
I
don't remember.
I think it's the 5th.
The
5th sounds right.
Yeah.
Most likely within the next few days. I'm sure the iPads will be running it next week when they come out.
Yeah. So it's available to developers now. And
public beta also. It's if you want to sign
beta.
up for that, you can do that too.
And I haven't actually checked I don't have access to the public beta to see if the camera.
I've been using it. It looks like it's doing about the same. Especially the color.
I mean, you'd have to have two phones. You'd have to have one running 12.0.1 and one running 12.1 and take two pictures and see how they look.
Yes, which I do not have.
Yeah.
So, we don't have a definite date. Probably sooner than later.
Yeah.
But usually when Apple releases a new product, they often like to release the new an iOS update around the same time because it also fixes maybe some bugs that helps.
And this is the dual SIM too, right? I think is coming with 12.1.
Is that right?
They're unlocking that the eSIM and the regular SIM, so you can have two phone numbers.
Right. And I forget, does the 10R support?
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of the big selling points of it, I think.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
And Brace Day on Twitter is asking if there will be any other new features in iOS 12.1. Like, what else should Brace Day look forward to?
That's a good.
You know,
I know we have an article.
Is Jason
here.
Cross on the line?
Right.
He's been writing the article.
Dead Sea on YouTube was asking if there's an LTE fix for Apple, but I thought that might be a hardware issue.
What's the issue?
Oh, some people say they don't have as good of connection with it.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. Well, so there was that whole thing when the 10S came out about people having fewer bars but
stronger speeds.
Stronger speeds. So, and I've kind of noticed that on my T-Mobile. So, but I figured, well, I got a bar fewer than I usually do at this area, so to speak. But it doesn't feel like my performance is effective. Anything, it feels a little snappier. So, you know, I don't know if that's going to be fixed, if it even needs to be fixed. I don't know if Apple sees that as an issue. So,
and Apple never had a comment on that.
I don't recall Apple commenting on that. Yeah.
All right. It looks like we have new emojis, about 70 of them. Group FaceTime is finally here.
Is the bagel emoji in 12?
Yes, the bagel emoji.
The bagel got the change in there, and the real-time depth control comes for the 10s and the 10X Max while you're actually taking the photo, not after the fact. So,
okay.
Those are the big ones, I'd say.
Yeah. So, yeah, the bagel emoji. I'm looking forward to.
I'm sorry, I totally forgot about the emoji. Yeah.
So, yeah, so keep an eye out for that. Definitely think the iOS 12.1 release would happen before the Apple event.
I'm pretty sure
on October 30th.
Well, it depends on when they ship. If they don't ship for a week, or then it might be in between. Who knows?
Or maybe transition.
It won't. It definitely won't happen day of. It won't happen October 30th. They would. I don't think they would ship an update on October 30th. I think they would wait the day after.
It'd either be before or after.
Yeah, I don't think they would ship it day of, but before and after. So in other words, Mike, when you're sitting in the auditorium watching the event, you don't have to worry about an update automatically installing on your iPhone.
Fantastic. So. I will have an iPhone by next week, which is nice.
Yeah, nice.
I haven't used one regularly for a few months now.
You won't be shamed when you're.
I'm pretty sure they wouldn't let me in the building if I didn't have it.
Yeah. So October 30th, Apple is having an event in New York. Presumably, it's going to be introducing new iPads.
Yep.
New Macs. Essentially, this is kind of like the holiday. This is what's going to be on sale for our new products for the holiday season. And so, maybe
AirPods, maybe AirPower.
I mean, everyone on I shouldn't say everyone, but there are a lot of comments on YouTube and Twitter asking about the AirPod 2. And I will say that my wife was like, "Oh, we were at Costco and we saw AirPods." And I was like, "Yeah, you save like $20." But I was like, "We should wait a week just to see."
Just a week.
I mean, it very well could be, assuming the iPad gets rid of the headphone jack, like we've seen in rumors. That would be a nice tie-in to, to unveil a new AirPods.
And that's one of the products. I'll be honest with you. That's the product I'm looking forward to the most for my own personal use. Because I use AirPods a lot.
So I feel like what would be nice would be if you guys run through some of what you expect and then give a likeliness of it. Like, what do you think? Like, how likely do you think it's going to happen?
So since you brought up AirPods, so you guys think that new AirPods are likely, as you were saying, because it would be a good way to tie into
70% likely.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I should get a notepad and then like let's see who's like you guys can defer on it, and we'll see who gets the most points
out of that.
Yeah.
So,
so AirPods. Yeah, I think they'll introduce new AirPods. As you were pointed out, it makes a good tie-in with the new iPad Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And it does feel like the AirPods is kind of a type of holiday-like gift.
Oh, definitely.
Product.
Yeah.
So it's not as expensive as everything else, but it feels like the type of thing that would be definitely very hot during the holiday. It could be a hot seller.
I agree with that.
What do you think about those rumors of Apple somehow magically coming out with noise canceling for those? Do you think that's possible?
I mean, I don't know if it would be magical, but I mean, I guess it's possible. Most likely, it'll be a very minor update.
The reason I say that is because, to me, I actually consider this one of the some people gripe about them because of this, but I like, as a commuter on the streets of San Francisco, that the nice thing about AirPods is you can still hear stuff that's going on when you're walking off, and so even when your music's playing, you can still kind of hear people, which is nice for talking to people. And
they would really have to change the design.
Right.
Exactly.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if the design lends itself to.
It would have to be like those silicone, ear pieces that really kind of fit in your ear and then cancel the noise, rather than just having these kind of open. If they could do it with this design, then it would be pretty amazing.
Yeah. That's kind of what I meant by magical.
Yeah.
So on YouTube, our sister site PC World's Gordon Ung, and also our resident troll has come. He says, "How can they justify taking the headphone jack off of the iPad if it doesn't aid waterproofing?"
I mean, it's going to be strictly for design, engineering.
Yeah.
I don't think the headphone jack has anything to do with waterproofing, because there are plenty of phones that are waterproof that have headphone jacks.
That's what I think.
But I mean, I think the argument is that, with a phone, you could say, oh, there's not much space, it's so tight. But with an iPad, don't say you don't have enough space.
I don't know. With I think that the wires make more sense with a phone than they do for an iPad. Have you ever actually tried to connect a wired headphones into your? I mean, you got this. I have, because you got this big wire sticking over the screen and stuff. You constantly have to walk it other way, especially if you're using it to the side here. And doesn't it go up on the top or something on the iPad, which is stupid too?
It was on the if it's docked, it's on the the side. But I agree. I don't think that would be as big of a deal as when they took it away from the iPhone itself.
I think you're more likely, and if you're using it as a regular laptop or something like that, it makes more sense to have something wireless in there. I'm sorry, I am actually a strong supporter of the wireless.
Here's the rub: if the rumors are true and it has USB-C, that opens up a whole new world of. Dongles for one, but also headphones, because Lightning. If you're looking at Lightning headphones, you're very limited. USB-C, there's a hell of a lot more, assuming they all work with the iPad, which they should. That opens up a wider array of audio options. But to answer Gordon's question, I think that the reason why they would do it is because they would have an enhanced haptic system. We got the Face ID camera in there. There's a lot more things they have to fit into what looks like it's going to be a much smaller frame with much smaller bezels, and it's engineering. They make their trade-offs. I mean, they just can't. They just decided they're not going to fit it.
Apple has, I guess, to kind of step back a little bit, more generalized take. My more generalized take on it is Apple historically. They have a history of kind of going all in on certain design and feature aspects. So USB-C is one of them. They went all in on USB-C on the laptops. They've gone all in now on no home button, on their phones. You can go back, and Apple does this. They go all in on certain, the keyboard. The butterfly keyboard. People don't like it, but they've gone all in on it. And I think removing the headphone jack is another one of those things. There was a practical instance for removing it on the iPhone. They wanted to use the space for something else.
Right.
But now
it's principle.
Right. And that's kind of like the training wheels for people to let them know this is the way we're going to do it. You know how we work. This is
yeah, and when you crack open, well, I don't. When iFixit cracks open one of these things, no one says, "Oh my God, there's so much space. How come there's no headphone jack?" I mean, these things are crammed and engineered to the max.
Yes.
It's just this is what they choose. They have a better haptic engine than most other phones. They have this is what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. If you want to get a headphone jack on your tablet, go buy a Surface or a Galaxy, whatever the heck. No one's going to do that. They want an iPad.
Yeah. Someone an iPad.
So speaking of USB-C, another product that could be introduced is a Pencil 2.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's almost I get that as close to 100% certainty as I can.
Because of the logos that they've done, they're really emphasizing the art.
Yep.
They're emphasizing the creation.
Right.
Apple Pencil is going to play heavily into that.
Totally. I think they're going to probably spotlight a couple of those logos of designed by some super famous artist.
Mm-hmm.
And look, he used an iPad Pro to do it, blah, 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 with the Apple Pencil. Absolutely.
We may even see one created on stage.
So you guys are all yeses for the Pencil.
Yes,
definitely
the Pencil's a 100%.
And you're all yeses on AirPods too?
No, we're yeses, but
I'm a maybe.
There's no maybe. There's no maybe in this. This is yes or no.
It's a
all right,
maybe.
then I'll be the contrarian. I'll say no, but I'm going to be wrong.
So I brought up USB-C because will the new Pencil 2 be USB-C based?
Yeah, that's a good question because
it's too big.
If it is
USB-C too big.
It's a different connector. It's a whole different system. USB-C versus Lightning.
Maybe they'll make it charge differently. Or
so
something.
would it be a wireless charging?
That's
Pencil?
what I'm hoping. Yes.
That would be cool. Or maybe there's a USB-C port rather than a charger, and you plug in the thing. I don't know.
Or another dongle.
But USB-C would be too wide. Yeah.
It's close to Lightning, but in a device that small, we're talking enough millimeters where it would change the grip of the pencil.
If they wirelessly charge it, they can also get rid of that cap that people are always hating, that the cap comes off and stuff. I just realized that. So that way, it would keep that weight and
or maybe it just takes power from the iPad or something. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't need much. As you plug the thing in for 15 seconds, you get like an hour.
Yeah.
So it doesn't need much power to run. I don't know how the hell they're going to do it, but I would say no to USB-C on the Pencil 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, Leif, as someone who uses the Pencil a lot, is there something about the design of the Pencil that you think needs to be changed?
I think the design of I think the design is one of its greatest strengths. The weight is great of the Apple Pencil. I don't, other styluses, they feel too, like you're writing with a crayon or something like that.
Too thick.
It's just, the weight is just perfect and stuff. I think Apple would be doing a bad thing if they change the design that much. I know some professional artists like to have some kind of buttons on it. I don't think Apple's going to do that, where it'll allow you to easily switch between erasing and and drawing and stuff. So there are a couple of styluses where you can do that in just one click and stuff. But I know a lot of people want to do that. I don't think Apple will do that. But yeah, it's so perfect in my opinion. Like I said, like even adding a USB-C, that would make it too wide. That would throw off that weight.
It also would make it only for the iPad, whatever the new one's called.
Yes,
because you couldn't use it on any other iPad. And presumably, it'll work with older Pros.
Yes.
Yeah.
What I'm hoping is it has some kind of a magnet inside, which would do both things. You'd be able to attach it to the iPad and not lose it, and it would also, that could be your kind of trickle charge taking from the iPad into the Pencil.
I think, we'll also see, this isn't really so much the design, but I think, they're also going to be showing better pressure sensitivity. And I have a feeling we're going to be seeing that with Photoshop right there on stage.
That's a given.
That was recently announced.
And because I know a lot of artists, say they would love to use an iPad and an Apple Pencil, as a, especially for just drafting or something compared to their Wacom tablets. But making the Pencil even better than what it is would allow them to go in that direction.
Yeah, that's a good point, that you could, with USB-C now, you can connect that thing to a Mac and use it as a big giant tablet that you can now project onto a monitor or your MacBook or whatever you're using, which the current iPads can't do. So that would be a huge selling point. That opens up a whole nother market for these things too.
I think when we see the iPad presentation, which we were going to, the Apple Pencil is going to be there every step of the way.
Yeah, sure.
So speaking of the iPad presentation,
Mm-hmm.
so we're expecting new iPad Pros.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think 10 and 12 inch? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean maybe a little bit bigger, 11 and close to 13.
Right,
because
there
we're
was
taking
the
away the
rumor
bezels,
was
maybe,
that there was an 11 inch one, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
At 12.9 and 11 or something like that.
That would go well with that emphasis on art. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one I'm, is that rumor about a new Mini coming out from Ming Chi Kuo. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you think? So you guys are. I'm going to say be all yeses on iPad Pros.
Yeah, well, that's. I mean, if anyone says no to that, they're just not paying attention.
But how about the Mini? Where do you stand on the Mini?
I think
I'm going to say no. I could be wrong.
yeah,
I'm writing these down. So
I'm going to say no also.
I'm going to say no at the event, but yes, a release.
Kind of like an
Yes.
afterthought.
I can buy that. Yeah.
I could see that happening.
They're not going to give it any like, here's the new Mini.
Right.
But it will, like later on that day, or maybe a couple days later, a week later, whatever. They'll say, "Oh, look, here's a Mini with a new processor, A11X or whatever they're going to put in it."
Yeah.
I don't think the form factor is going to change. I don't think the screen will change either. I think it'll be a cheaper price, which it has to be because it's priced pretty ridiculously at the moment.
That's I was thinking about that this morning. How can you price the iPad Mini now? Because the iPad is what, $329?
$329. I say make it $249.
$249.
$249. Lower the storage. I think it's 128 gigs now, which is too much.
So you lower it to 64.
Lower to 64, maybe even 32. Make it a real low-end kids device, like what Amazon does with that Kindle Fire, whatever the heck. That's like 8 gigs. My son loves it. I mean, they don't, it targeted at like 5 to 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
Because that's the perfect age, the perfect size for a kid. It's nobody wants an iPod Touch anymore. That would be the new iPod Touch.
Yes. Going to backtrack a little bit. One thing I would like to see on the Apple Pencil is the way to see without going into your notification. I mean, what the charge is on it. Currently, it's really difficult to kind of see what the charge is. One thing I'd like to in my article that I wrote on it, one thing I like to say is if you remove the cap, maybe kind of like the AirPods where that light comes on telling you what the charge is, just something like that.
Also, like automatic. Like don't you have to do like that? Like you have to pair it.
Yes, that's another one that's going to be
what is it? The Beats pairing or the AirPods pairing,
right?
Where you just leave it, you have it close to the iPad and it
HomePod works that way too. But yeah, that would be nice. And one thing I noticed when I was doing videos on this is that I totally did not expect this, is that, you have to unpair the Apple Pencil from one iPad to use it from the next. I was thinking I could just go from one to the other.
Yeah,
no, you have to use 2 separate Apple Pencils. Yeah. So, yeah.
Philip Allen on YouTube is asking, what about iMac upgrades?
Yeah, I think
yes.
I think we'll see iMacs too.
So there was a report today by a couple of European sites. The was it the European Commission?
The EEC, whatever.
EEC.
Yeah, whatever it stands for.
Yeah. So Apple has to do these filings with the EEC when they are about to release new products, and then they get leaked. So
always.
Yeah. So they were leaked this morning, and the filing showed five new models. 3 of those model numbers were not familiar model numbers. If I had that, or no, I'm sorry, it's 8.
Wow.
8 new model numbers, or 8 models. 3 of them which are new model numbers that were unrecognizable. So the other 5. I think people were theorizing that those would be iMac updates.
Yes.
So, which makes sense. You probably have like
how long has it been? It's been a
inches
couple, 2 years, year and a half. It's been a little bit of time since the iMacs got updated.
So we'll see. I think we'll see iMac updates.
We were talking earlier in Slack. I don't think we'll see an iMac Pro update, but the regular ones, we'll see it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think the iMac will be monumental. But do they have Thunderbolt 3 now? I don't even remember when the heck those were. Those were
on the Pro. I don't know about the regular. Does it?
I thought the regular did. It's a USB-C / T-Bolt 3.
I haven't bought an iMac in like 15 years.
All right, and Nathan Williams on YouTube is saying, "How about Mac Minis?"
Yes.
So
ding, 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 ding.
So one of the theories is that those three model numbers could
Mm-hmm.
possibly be the new Mac Mini. So Apple offers 3 Mac Minis right now, and it's possible that those 3 unfamiliar model numbers could be the new Mac Mini. What would be interesting to see is if they stick with the new design or if they go with a whole new design, because
They have to change the design. It's
Yeah.
been like a decade, man.
It doesn't look like a modern Apple product anymore.
No.
So, and it was, Bloomberg had that report earlier this year that Apple was taking a different approach to the
It's
Mac
like
Mini.
more pro oriented.
Yeah,
Yes.
more pro oriented, because as a lot of people know, people use Mac Minis for not just as a desktop machine, but they often use it as servers and other things like that. So
Yep.
they're not just being relied upon as, and it was, the Mac Mini was always framed as this entry-level machine, but it's actually being used for more difficult processes that pros like to do.
But
So-
Roman, what's a PC?
Yeah,
What's a computer?
PC, right?
I will say
So-
the bar I frequent uses a Mac Mini as their main machine for the checkout.
That's all I need.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you guys are all yeses on that?
So
Yeah,
I'm a yes on,
definitely Mac Mini.
yeah,
New
definitely.
design, new everything.
I lean
like
towards
top to
yes.
bottom, a total culture shift for the Mac Mini. I think.
Yeah.
That should be exciting for people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that also, like I was saying about the AirPods, the Mac Mini also seems kind of like the type of machine that would people would look at the holiday season and think that would be
Yeah.
good- a
If
good
it's like
buy
if
to
it's
make.
still $500 or $600 for sure.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got to be. Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be interested to see what kind of design they go with the Mac Mini, and the thing that the Mac Mini has going for it is that it has a lot of ports.
Yeah.
Right now it has 4 USB 3 ports. It has Thunderbolt 2.
We'll see what that happens.
So, but
HDMI.
if Apple decides it's just going to be Thunderbolt 3 / USB-C,
And 2 of them.
right, 2 of them,
Yeah.
you might see a revolt. So, as much as Apple wants us to believe that USB-C is the future, and it is,
Yeah.
these
It's
USB-A
2030.
peripherals are still quite usable.
Yeah.
And still,
It's
people
gotten
depend on
a
them.
lot better this year. 2018 was a bit of a watershed year for USB-C.
Yeah.
It's becoming more prevalent, certainly on Android phones, on computers, and
Yeah.
accessory makers are starting to, abandon USB-A
Finally.
for C. Also, we haven't mentioned this new low-cost budget notebook that is
Yes.
the other big rumor that is allegedly coming.
That is one of the ones I'm most excited about.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
They haven't really done that in a while.
Right.
Yeah.
The MacBook Air was not, if you remember, it was $1,800 friggin' dollars for not a new processor. That was not a budget machine at all. It's really, you had to go back to that polycarbonate plastic MacBook
Mm-hmm.
from like what, 2010, 20, I don't remember what year it was. But that was like the last, budgety, like real consumer level MacBook. Now you can buy a $1,000 MacBook, but it's a piece of crap.
Yes.
Yeah.
2008.
So does that mean this is the end of the line for the MacBook Air? We'll see.
I guess. I mean, maybe this is a new MacBook Air. Maybe they're going to call it that.
I know Jason's was thinking that they'll drop the name Air. I'm not entirely sure about that.
I don't know. I mean, it's a pretty iconic name, brand, if you will, for
Yes.
Apple. I don't know if they need to really get rid of it. They can keep the MacBook at $1,300, have the Air at $1,000, but make it Retina, make it newer, change the design a little bit, give it USB-C, and have it be a whole new ball game. And the new Mac Mini, lighter than ever, blah blah blah.
So whatever we call it, where do you guys stand on a new entry level MacBook sort?
I'm on board.
Yeah, I think
I
this
love
is
it.
it, and it will replace whatever it is. It will replace the current Air and the current low end 12-inch MacBook.
Leif, you say no?
But you're going to say they're going to replace both of them?
I think
Could
they
be
might
one
replace
model
both of
that
them.
replaces the Air and the MacBook. I don't know about that.
Because it wouldn't be that would be an overlap, right? It's
Well, I guess, but they have it now.
See, I think that Air isn't very, that name has power, and we feel like we're constantly having to explain that the 12-inch MacBook is actually lighter and thinner than the MacBook Air.
That's a little, yeah.
I mean, they could call it the MacBook 10. Who knows? They could call it whatever they want.
The XL or XM, whatever the hell letter they choose for it.
Mac OS X, which is like 20 years old at this point. It's 18.
Yeah, the thing is that $1,299 MacBook has a Core M3 processor.
Yeah, it's not so good.
It's not so good. So, it's
how much is the 13-inch? The lowest, the cheapest 13-inch Pro is what's 15.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's $1,599.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 16. Okay, so that's a significant difference. Yeah. 13, 16.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So I mean, we'll see. I would be surprised if they got rid of either of them. I think they'll make a new entry level, probably call it the Air, but keep the MacBook around. Maybe bump the specs a bit.
Ooh, I think they got to get rid of the Air.
Oh, so the low end 13-inch MacBook Pro is $1,299. It's the one without a touch bar.
Interesting. So then they could get rid of them. Then what's the hell's the point of having both of those around?
Yeah. See, that's
that's a better. Isn't that a better machine?
Yeah, it is.
MacBook?
Yeah. It's a much better machine. It's bigger.
2.3 gigahertz as opposed to 1.3 at the highest.
Right.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So
then they got some decisions to make.
Right. They have to do some realignment of their lineup.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think that's what you'll see. A realignment of their lineup. I think you'll see a new MacBook replacing those two on the low end of Apple's lineup. So,
how about
will they mention AirPower at all?
That's what I was going
to say.
Charging the Apple Pencil.
AirPower.
Where do you stand?
No.
I say no. Also,
yeah.
I don't think we're going to see it till next year, if ever.
And if we do, it's going to be a new design.
I'll say yes, just because everyone's saying no.
Yeah, thanks for making it interesting.
I don't. Well, are we saying mention or are we saying a ship? Just
either.
A mention. I'll say they'll mention it.
Is it mentioned at all?
Does it?
Because it wasn't during the iPhone event, and that was where it would be mentioned.
Does it count? Does it mention? Does it count as a mention if they show it on a slide? But
no.
Say anything?
Sure. Absolutely, it does.
I'm going to say it needs to. They need to announce a ship quarter at least. Like it's going to be released at this time, not just like it's still going on. We're not forgetting it. It's like no.
I said. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Carry on. Go ahead. I say it's a mention if they use the word air and power in the same sentence.
Yes.
See, I could see them like if the Pencil and the new AirPods, were wireless charging.
Yes.
And then they go, oh, by the way, you can use it with AirPower. Yeah, and then just kind of like keep going.
Yeah.
And not even mention any detail about the AirPower. I could see that happening. So, but I'll say yes just because it's
shaking it up.
Yeah.
To say yes.
And here's a good question from Coral Reef on Twitter saying, will productivity tools like Final Cut Pro, which I don't know if that's productivity, but make it to the iPad Pro like Adobe has brought iOS?
Xcode is another one that's you'd think now that they have full Photoshop.
This feels like
getting more part of a like this is a real deal. USB-C, full Photoshop, Face ID, blah 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 blah. This is like a real deal desktop replacement.
Yes.
Here's Final Cut. Here's Xcode. Go crazy.
I'd like to.
That would be awesome.
Yes. And I don't know if we'll see video though. I can buy Photoshop more and even something like InDesign and Illustrator before the video though. I could be being cynical about that though.
Maybe. I mean, if it has USB-C, you got to presumably hook up a hard drive to it.
It's true.
To have like more peripheral devices than we've ever had before.
That would be a game changer. Mm-hmm.
Apple tends not to use their Pro apps in their events. They don't tend to. They always do them. They always just kind of do a release and don't even have. Every once in a while they'll have one-on-one sessions with media members when they're coming out with a major release. So like I've been briefed on major releases of Final Cut, things like that. And then I'll get an email from Apple PR like saying, hey, we're going to do this tomorrow. So they don't usually do the pro apps at events. So if they are going to do something, I don't think I could see them saying, hey, you can see what we're working on in the hands-on area and show you a hands-on of Final Cut on the iPad. But they're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna highlight it during an event if they're gonna do anything, if they have anything in plan
and
for that.
Drawing, Photoshop, art, that's gonna be the focus on the iPad. I don't think they're gonna touch video.
I mean, I would agree with you, but we know about Photoshop. Are we gonna get another half-hour demo of how great Photoshop is on the iPad? We know. We've seen it. We know it's coming. Like that's not a surprise. That's not.
I say 15 minutes.
But if they do like a little quick lineup of here are like 3 new creative apps, and one of them they do Photoshop again, but then they go into video a little bit more with their own software versus Adobe products. I feel like that balance it out, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where did you guys stand on AirPower? Oh, you guys said
I
yes,
said no.
Yeah.
I said yes to AirPower.
I said no to AirPower.
That's right.
But his heart really says no.
Yeah, my heart says no, but I'll say. So we don't think. So we left out the iMac Pro and the Mac Pro. We don't think.
We're not going to see an iMac Pro refresh. It's too soon.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's a Pro Mac event.
Yeah.
Like the iPad Pro is still not as pro-y as the iMac Pro or the Mac. Certainly not the Mac Pro. No way.
So the Mac Pro to me is like a developer conference type thing, unveil.
Yes.
So they wouldn't do that till next year.
WWDC.
They did introduce the iMac Pro last year in November.
That was a developer thing preview too.
So yeah, they could do just. I mean, and at this point, it's probably an update. But I think even like Jason Cross was telling us in our Slack room, there hasn't been like a Xeon major update.
Yeah, there's not much to update at this point.
Yeah. So I don't think there'll be any iMac or Mac Pro updates. What else am I leaving out? So Apple Watch just came out, so nothing there. iPhone just came out. What about
iPhone XR cases?
XR 10R cases. But what about Apple TV?
Meh.
So there have been some rumors.
They gave it the Atmos upgrade. They gave it, it has what it needs. I don't think we're going to see a new.
Yeah.
What I'd love to see is a sneak peek of one of these damn shows they're making. But
I don't think that'll.
I don't know if we're going to get that either. Maybe. I mean, it could be. It could, part of the iPad big screen, TV experience, I guess.
So I forget who reported, I think it was yesterday, about Apple's working on their own streaming service.
That was the information.
Was it the information? Right, it was the information.
I mean, there wasn't a ton of news, but they said that it's going to be international and domestic and,
So, but you guys,
next year.
But do you think Apple will say anything about the service, not the hardware, but the service tomorrow?
I doubt it.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Yeah. So.
Hey, it's not going to be as boring as everyone says it's going to be.
I'm going to say.
I think that'll be its own thing.
Yes,
and it might not even be an Apple event.
Thing.
They might go to like the upfronts or something. Like it might be more of a Hollywood thing where they really tie it into, the Emmys or the Oscars or something. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to be a typical, here's a bunch of techies and we're doing a video thing. I think they're going to invite different people. It's going to be a different type of announcement.
They're going to have a Grauman's Chinese Theater. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah. Seriously, no, I think that it's going to be a more of a glitzy thing. We'll see. It takes a while to produce these types of shows and get them ready to go.
Yeah,
particularly if your CEO is stepping in and telling you to eliminate all the nudity and violence.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think there'll be an Apple TV service or hardware announcement either. So
because it's already pretty packed as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a pretty jammed event. One thing I'm gonna predict is a new Apple display to go with the Mac Mini. I'm probably wrong.
Like a cinema display.
I'm gonna predict that. Yeah, like a cinema display. Yeah.
All right.
8K.
Like I said, I'm not even really all that confident about it, but it's been so long since we've had one. Those LG Superfine things were no one really cared. Like an Apple display would be awesome.
I'm going to say no,
8K
but knowing I could be wrong.
If you will.
Yes.
So an 8K display.
You're saying no to my prediction?
Yes.
And Relman, what do you say?
I'm going to say yes.
Oh,
So
you've convinced
I'd
me.
like to see one. I don't think we will. Yes.
an 8K. Yeah, I can see like
Yeah,
a 27-inch.
Yeah, 27 and 35 inch 4K HDR Dolby Vision, blah 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 blah.
Because I still use a cinema display. I keep it hooked up to my MacBook.
Yeah, they were awesome back in the day.
So I know that Apple has said that the Mac Pro is going to be a 2019 thing. Do you think they'll update with information at all? It'll be mentioned?
Like
no.
Say,
No.
hey, this is what we're working on kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
This is
maybe
the
like how
progress.
it's advanced. Like okay, maybe they'll tease the form factor.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think this event's going to be kind of, it'll lean towards consumer
Hmm.
focus. So
The form
Consumer
factor, they
creative.
want, they know there's going to be a lot of BS over that, especially after the trash can one. So they're not going to let us see that
Yeah,
until it actually comes out.
and I think it's, as Roman says, that's more of a WWDC sneak peek,
Yeah.
most likely.
Yeah.
I mean, those things, even if let's say they're everything everybody wants, where it's a tower and it's endlessly customizable and blah, it's still targeting a very small segment of the market.
Well, I think it has to come out by WWDC. Is my
I
feeling.
don't think so.
No, I don't
I
think
think
so.
when they say 2019, they may December 27th, 2019.
They announced this in 2017
they said they were working on it. They were still in the exploratory phases.
yeah.
Apple doesn't move quickly ever, really.
Yes. And they were doing a lot of talking about stuff that was coming out. They seem to have backed off from that, which I applaud them for that.
Yeah, I think we'll see it late next year. If maybe we'll even push it another. Who the heck knows? I don't know.
I think we'll see it in 2019, but we're not going to hear anything about it until WWDC.
Yeah.
And one last one, since this is, I believe, at a music hall, a HomePod,
Yes.
an addition to the HomePod or an update.
No.
That's a good question.
Well, they'll brag about the HomePod being
There's
number
no
9
bragging about
and
HomePod. Roman.
smart. Bragging about the HomePod being number 9 in smart speaker sales.
4% of the market.
So no HomePod
I
update.
don't-
You don't think
I don't think they. I don't know. I mean,
there won't
maybe
be a
they'll cut
hardware?
the price to $299. That could be something I could see that happens. They make it a little bit more affordable. I don't think we're going to see a cheaper one.
No,
I don't think there's a point to being a cheaper one yet. Amazon and Google sell the cheaper minis because it's all about Google Assistant and Alexa.
Right.
If you take away HomePod's ability to play music well, what the heck is it? Like, nobody wants one then. The reason why you buy it is because it's a good music player.
And see, one thing, going in that direction, as an apartment dweller, it's too good. I feel like I have to keep it at 2 settings of volumes up. Otherwise, the bass, you can just feel the thing through the whole
Yeah,
building.
I wouldn't mind an equalizer would be all right.
Yes, you need an equalizer with that because the bass is too strong. It's cool, but when I have people living above me and below me,
I hear that.
Yeah. So no new HomePod hardware. I
I'm going
can
to say
see
they're
them.
going to cut the price by $50. That's my prediction. For
that seems
HomePod.
like an Apple price cut. Yeah.
I could see them announcing future software updates that are coming, but I don't think they won't do any new hardware.
I don't think we'll hear that announcement of that price cut on stage, but they might do it at the event.
Yeah, maybe.
I actually don't think they'll say anything about the HomePod at all. But
I mean, they haven't much really at all, and they don't even do it in their quarterly results where they find something nice to say about everything that HomePod's
Right.
never mentioned.
yeah,
Basically, all I use it for, I hate to admit it, is asking what the weather's going to be like when I wake up in the morning.
So
I don't use mine. I play music when I'm in the office. That's it. You can see it behind me. There it is.
Oh, look at that.
I would say, how about this question for you guys? In the last 4 years, what was the worst Apple purchase you have made?
4 years, eh?
Yeah.
4 years.
All right, let me think.
Let's see.
Does the HomePod fit in there?
I didn't buy a HomePod. So.
I only use the offices, so yeah, they can keep. Yeah.
Oh.
Surprising.
How about
surprising you guys with this?
I bought a $100 gift card at regular price.
An iTunes. You bought
Right, I bought an iTunes $100 gift card at regular price. The thing is, you can, if you just wait, there's always like an $85 deal for iTunes gift cards on eBay or PayPal often sells them.
I regret buying
15%,
my iPad Pro
20%.
Yeah, I think it was a bad purchase.
So that's my answer.
I bought a Roman bought me an Apple shirt from Apple Park that I haven't worn yet. I have the same one, but I haven't actually worn it yet. That was a pretty bad purchase. That was like $40.
It's like $40, yes.
It's still in the box.
I'll say actually one of my favorite purchases go along with that is the Siri T-shirt that I bought at the Apple Store before Apple Park opened. It was years before Apple Park opened, and it was when the old Apple Store was at One Infinite Loop. It was before it became a real Apple Store. It was more like a Apple Store / gift shop. So they used to sell they sell T-shirts and stuff, but they also sold other knickknacks than they do before.
They still have that shop there.
So,
Jamie Ferguson on YouTube says Apple Mouse was the worst thing I bought. Is that the one with the erection connection?
I actually went out and bought. I am kind of like a late convert to the Magic Mouse. Yeah, I actually bought the black one, the space gray one, for my birthday. The reason I like it, I still prefer my Logitech mouse for like gaming and stuff like that. But it disappears into my bag when I'm, it's really nice for ultra port. I can stick it in my pocket. Like when I'm carrying around my MacBook and stuff. I really love the Magic Mouse for that. And okay, I haven't charged my Magic Mouse in like 3 weeks. This is one of the reasons I kind of roll my eyes at people talking about the way you charge it. And it only takes like 10 minutes to charge it. I mean, this is not.
It's still a silly design. I don't care how little you need to use it. It's still a dumb design. My least favorite Apple product in the last 4 years that I didn't buy it because it was a company issued thing, but I have a 13-inch MacBook Pro from 2 years ago. Man, I hate it. The touch bar is useless. It's constantly crashing. I constantly need to restart it because things aren't working. I've had like 10 kernel panics on this thing. Maybe I have alignment. I don't know, but I haven't even upgraded. I'm still on
Yosemite,
whatever 2 years ago is, because I'm afraid to put the newer versions on.
Sierra.
Because I think I'm before Sierra. What are we on now? Yeah, you're right.
Sierra.
Sierra. So Sierra.
Mojave.
Yeah.
Mojave
so I'm on Sierra, and I'm like, I don't want to upgrade it because I'm like I feel like it's this like delicate balance of working and crashing, but I can still get things done. Plus, I hate the keyboard.
Well, see, it's interesting. One thing, I have the 15-inch 2017 15-inch MacBook Pro. I have to admit, with Touch Bar, I've gotten where I kind of hate that thing. It's too big for me. I like the screen, but I feel like the keyboard is too big and stuff. And most of my work now is done on a 12-inch MacBook. I love that little thing. Yeah. And but it feels like there's too much room between the desk and my hands and everything, and the keys are too spread about. I don't like the gigantic trackpad. That would probably say, you would think that I would be the one I would love the most for 15-inch, but MacBook Pro. But no, I actually don't really like it. So I actually prefer the 12-inch MacBook over that.
Yeah, I like the 13, and the screen size of this one is good.
Yes,
but the everything else about it is garbage.
Well, that just about does it for this week's episode of the Macworld Podcast, episode 627. Join us next week. Next week's show will be a special one because we're going to wrap up Apple's event.
Yep.
It's also Halloween.
All right.
Yeah. You guys dress up.
Are we going to come in costume?
I'll wear my black turtleneck and some jeans, some glasses.
I'm gonna dress up as Roman. I gotta find a black shirt.
The Wolverine.
We should dress up as each other.
Yeah. Roman should be the Wolverine.
I'll dress up as Wolverine.
And I don't know if Mike has heard this. Mike should be Ray Romano.
I honestly don't even really know what that would entail. Quite a bit. All I know is everyone loves him, so I guess it's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so next week's show, so we regularly podcast on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific. But next week's show will be the day after the Apple event, which is on October 30th. So you'll want to tune in. We'll talk about that. So we know the topic for next week's show is whatever happened at the event.
Yeah, I think we're covered next week.
Yeah. And, Mike will also have had the 10R, so maybe we can talk about that a little bit as well.
A couple of days.
So, but yeah, so join us next week so we can do a recap and talk about what happened at the Apple event.
Yeah,
we'll also be celebrating the Red Sox winning the World Series.
I'm getting lots of hate on YouTube and Twitter. They're all sending lots of hate.
To you?
Wait, for you, against you or against
to you?
Uh-oh.
Everyone's on my side. No one's actually.
No one's actually saying anything. So I'd like to thank Mike for joining us. Thanks, Mike. Thanks to Leif and to Dan.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'd like to thank you, the audience, for tuning in. Join us next week, live on Twitter and on YouTube. So see you next week.
See ya.